Hey everyone, and welcome to a video about Planet Zoo 2. And no, this is not gonna be your typical speculation video. This video is going to be about some very good evidences that we have for a potential successor of our beloved Planet Zoo 2. To make it very obvious, here are the chapters we're going to talk about, and this is going to be, first of all, a context. I'm going to give you a bit of a context why we're doing this video. Then we are going to go into some actual advancements in technology, which have a huge influence for a game like that, more than others. And then we're going to look at Planet Coaster 2 and what we can take from this game towards a potential successor, which also we are going to quickly talk about Jurassic World Evolution 3, but that's just a minor thing in that chapter. And at the end, I'm going to draw a little conclusion so we can talk about what kind of influences these three chapters had on a potential successor. So, just for context, we do know that there are 3 CMS games coming for Frontier. CMS means Creative Simulation Management Games. That is a term that Frontier uses for their beloved Planet franchise and Jurassic World Evolution. And we do know 2 of them are already confirmed, which is going to be Jurassic World Evolution 3 for next year, and also Planet Coaster 2, obviously going to be released the 6th of November this year. That leaves us with one more game that is going to be released in 2026. Well, obviously, this could be anything, okay? I'm going to state that here completely clear and fully transparent. We do not know, but there are a lot of reasons why to believe that this could be a potential Planet Zoo 2. And these things are very obvious. The first thing is that Planet Zoo is a mega successful game for Frontier. And Frontier is still struggling and still has to deal with financial issues, layoffs and stuff like that have been happening. And they need to pay bills. And Planet Coaster 2 obviously needs to become a success. And Planet Zoo is, if you consider everything around all their games, the best-selling game they ever had. It's making the most money for the franchise they had. It's more selling than Planet Coaster ever does. It also did outperform Elite Dangerous, and it even did outperform both of Jurassic World titles. And that being said, they don't have to pay licenses for that, because Jurassic World, obviously, with all their income, is also having a little bit of a license, obviously, going to Universal. So the Zoo franchise, financially seen, is their most beneficial and profitable franchise they ever had. So why wouldn't you continue on that one? Speaking of continuing, we do know there is a new DLC coming Wednesday in the next Frontier Unlocked. We will potentially know what that is going to be. And rumor has it that this potentially is going to be the last. I'm going to say potentially because I have a certain feeling it could be different, but more about that in the 3rd chapter today, because we need to look into that in comparison, or in actually together with Planet Coaster 2 and also Jurassic World Evolution 3, but as I said, more about that later. The last bit I want to quickly talk about as a context point, and I'm very sorry to say so, but this is my honest opinion about that. This is something I have been very vocal about in the last year especially. Planet Zoo is an unfinished game, and I will keep saying that. I do love the game. I've got so many thousands of hours in this game. Obviously, it is a game very close to my heart, but that should not hide the fact that this is an unfinished game. We are speaking about a game that features so many animals, almost 200 animals in this game, and yet we don't have proper birds, flying birds, potentially aviaries and stuff like that, and we do not have any fish or full aquatic animals. So if you compare that to a theme park game, for example, with Planet Coaster 1, at a certain point, you were able to rebuild a certain amount of actual real-life theme parks, because literally you had every single ride, or at least a very, very close to that ride in this game. The only limitation was the engine. While with Planet Zoo, there is not really the engine limitation. The engine is much better than it was in Planet Coaster, but obviously you're basically you're not able to build any zoo that exists in real life. You're simply not, because you're missing out a vital part, which is either fish or birds. It is frankly impossible. So it is an unfinished game. Like, for me personally, if you want to call that a full zoo game, you should be able to rebuild a full zoo, a real life zoo, be it as small as you go, but it is not possible in this game. So speaking about a water park, for example, for a future theme park game, just as a comparison, is not as vital for a theme park as animals like birds and fish are for the zoo. And this is why I consider this a very unfinished game, and I think Frontier isn't finished with this genre. So that being said, this is all I wanted to talk about with the wonderful context of this video, let's dive into the next chapter. So the next part is going to be very interesting. I have spent a lot of time researching a lot of the AI developments in animation and rigging lately because I'm very interested in that kind of sense. You know, I have made a video in the past about the traversable area in Planet Zoo. If you're interested, make sure to watch that first before we talk about this point, because this knowledge is vital to understand why this is such a huge impact for a potential second game. We all know how great it was to have this insane freedom to build our very own habitats and create whatever we want and make the animals interact with it. But as soon as the first pink magic dust, so to say, vanished and you were able to look behind the scenes, we quickly learned that the traversable area and especially the climbing still has a lot of glitches. And I keep saying that what Frontier has pulled off back in 2019 is amazing, you know, but you have to understand that in the current system of Planet Zoo, every single animal has a complete set of fully animated and rigged animations that are then used for climbing and for all this kind of stuff in this game, and it's all manually handmade. The AI is kind of delivering only the decision which animation is pulled off the set of animations and then has to go on the climbing frame. So this is why you see a lot of glitches and stuff like that, because such a new, completely free physics and stuff has never been tested before, and it's very hard to deliver because literally you are in a 360 kind of 3D room, and that means every single animation technically needs to have a 360 action point to go in, and they already did a stellar job on that. But the development in AI in this last couple of years, and I'm going to put in some clips now from actual footage of AI-supported rigging and animation, is absolutely insane. There is so much more to it right now that AI can deliver. So basically what you only need to do is you need to kind of have the starting point of your animation, one or two midpoints of your animation, and the last kind of frame of your animation, and then AI will do everything in between, which dramatically reduces the amount of animations you need to pre-build, and it absolutely increases, like very exponentially, the amount of overall animations you can have. So while every animal right now could have potentially 200 animations, and they are so proud, as they said always, of the fact that they can share animations between each animal. So for example, that's why tigers share obviously a lot of animations, and then every single tiger has its unique stuff as well to make it possible. But now in the future you can just simply have a couple of animations and then let the AI do the rest. And the same goes for making sure that animals jump correctly. There's also going to be a clip right now of a tiger jumping down from an element, which is much more accurate, and most of it is also again done and calculated by AI, which at the end of the day makes the whole experience dramatically better with the same models and the same stuff you have in the game. So this is a insanely great step forward, and there's obviously going to be paired with a lot of shader improvements. I'm going to put quickly a picture of the orangutan in, the one that Frontier delivered at the beginning of the game, and the mod that I've used in my last video. By the way, make sure to watch that one, very interesting talk in there, and also very secret information about me. So if you're keen on that one, make sure to watch the video. But this shows how much of an improvement has been delivered over the years. And it's not like that modders are better than Frontier, it's just like that modders were able to make use of the current situation of the shader and the game, whilst Frontier didn't kind of rework the orangutan from the beginning. So the new one looks obviously a lot better than the old one does, and for a new game with a new engine and a lot of shader improvements, that would be even exponentially better. So without even changing the models and without even changing the amount of animals, the game could already be a lot better just by the development, the exponential development, I should say, in technology at the moment, driven by AI, which also is true for shaders, by the way. They are also mostly now driven by AI optimization and stuff like that. So this is going to be huge, but there is even more when we look at Planet Coaster 2, which is going to be our next chapter. Right, Planet Coaster 2 isn't fully released yet, but as I was already able to play quite a bit in this game, 90 minutes in the last playtest, and even more minutes on Gamescom actually, I have a very certain feeling of what that game is going to deliver. And you know, I've seen thousands of videos I made about this, but the baseline is this game improves upon a couple of things that will also be super valid for a potential Planet Zoo 2. Starting with the pathing, even though pathing obviously isn't like vital to animal care or anything like that, but it does make a whole bunch of sense when it comes to improving the overall way how to build in a game and make it more accessible to people. So pathing is obviously a huge thing. The second thing is obviously the lighting and the engine improvement. I've made a little clip from Sylph, which is also going to be in this video, and you will see now that the lighting has been improved so dramatically. Also pulling up another picture of Aston from his build, so you can see how much better it looks. And even though, yet again, this is more important for dark rides, maybe for coasters, you can say the same about night houses, for example, in Planet Zoo. Remember, whenever we did like a night house or something like that, we always needed to turn the game to night mode to make it look good, which this could be a huge beneficial element for a zoo game as well, to be actually being able to build actual night houses and then make use of it to actually increase the amount of gameplay elements. So say you have nocturnal animals and you need to make it dark for them, which with the engine you can now deliver, and then the game recognizes how dark it is inside to make another like care element for the animals, for example. But also the weather impact is a huge thing. We haven't seen that much of weather. We know there's rain in there. We don't know if there's snow in there. I do think so, potentially, because we also will have taiga and winter biomes already, as we've seen. So I'm assuming there is going to be snow as well, which then leads to the fact, how does the game deal with it? And we have seen there's a completely new time that I also made a video about, if you want to check that one out. The game Planet Coaster 2 will now come with a full day cycle rather than a full month cycle. For those of you who don't know, Planet Zoo actually works at the month, so if you play, the whole day continues. You will actually, for one entire in-game day, you are going to go through a full month or even more like that. So if you look down to your timing, you will see that you go into steps of days, which leads to the fact that seasons do not have that huge of an impact, because a season is relative to the gameplay time you actually have way too short, which Planet Coaster 2 fixes. And I think a zoo game could actually make even more benefit of it than the coaster game will be, because the zoo management will then have a huge impact on seasonal care for your animals. Say that you really need to change the habitats or the way how the zoo is run, and it has a huge impact to them. The same goes for selling objects, just like as it would be in zoo and coaster, where you know, in the winter times you would be selling more like coffee and hot drinks, while in the summer, obviously, like drinks like water and stuff would be more asked and frequently asked. So this would be a huge impact. And the biggest of all the impacts of Planet Coaster 2 obviously is going to be the pools, the aquatics, so to say, I want to call that. Now, I'm not joking. This is very obvious that Frontier is going to pull the pools and flumes and the whole water park as the new selling point of its successor. And that makes a lot of sense, because it's completely new to the franchise of Planet. We all know it has been in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but it does add a whole bunch of stuff to the game that people were asking from the first game. And this is obviously the very big comparison that we have to a potential zoo game, because that means we will also going to have at least one, maybe two, but like, let's say they would bring in full aquatics, like from the get-go. The base game will have automatically fish, aquariums, tanks, something like that would be the big selling point. Now, people are always worried. Do we have all the animals from the first game? Do I need to purchase all the animals again? And I think by now we do have a very good answer to that. And the answer is, well, no, kind of. Because even Jurassic World Evolution 2 and also Planet Coaster 2 showed it, we have almost 90% of the first game's content when it comes to the animals specifically, or the coasters in coaster sense. That is great. Frontier does a stellar job. Yes, you will have eventually a couple of things lacking. We will potentially have one or two coasters that we had in one that will not make it into two, and the same goes for flat rides. Whilst in Jurassic World Evolution, some of the hybrids didn't make it. The Spino, Evo, are you watching? I'm sorry, but you know. But there were just a couple, you know, it was fine. The majority of animals from the first game were brought over to the second game, which is again a very good thing Frontier did. And this is why I am very positive that for a potential Planet Zoo 2, we will see the same thing happen. And this is why we also needed to quickly look at Jurassic World Evolution 3 versus 2 versus 1, because you could see that kind of thing happening, and the same now with Planet Coaster 2. Is that a evidence that this is going to be happen? Obviously no, but the pools, just to come back to them, showcase that yet again they have learned a lot with the engine and how to deal with the engine, which the pools can technically be exactly this. They can be a testing ground for the potential aquatic update in the next game. And also, and this is going to be an interesting one, why I said I'm a bit hesitant if this is going to be the last Planet Zoo DLC. Because if, and just if, we are going to look at a CMS game in 2026 that is going to be Planet Zoo 2, then this is only 2 more years. So if they would be bringing out 2 DLCs per year as they did this year, that would mean it's only going to be 4 more animal packs. And I'm assuming that from all the stuff they have done in the past, maybe they have a lot of leftovers that they could deliver during these 2 years until the release of the next game. And if I were Frontier, I would do this, because if I would go the same route as with Planet Coaster 2, then this makes a lot of sense to fill in the roster of the first game with obviously non-aquatic and non-flying animals, but you could fill in all the fan favorites for like the habitat animals, and you could expand a bit more on the walkthrough exhibit, for example. So that said, let's go over to a conclusion. Right, we've talked a lot about these points now, and as I said, this was no real speculation, because all of these things that I've just talked about are factually happening with other Frontier games or within the industry, like all the different AI involvements. And I already briefly talked to Frontier, and it's not like that they're completely against AI. Obviously they move with time, and if there is an AI system that makes this so much more easy, they would take obviously benefit of it, because you would be stupid if you don't, and this is the way to go. Many new games have this already implemented. The new Nvidia stuff also grants you a lot of access to all this kind of automatic shading, and you know, the different versions they have of their DLSS 3 version right now, which makes the game a lot more performant while not being so heavily on graphics and so on. And all the other points, I am very positive toward a Planet Zoo 2. And now we obviously transition a tiny bit in the guessing game, because we have no real information. But if there is no Planet Zoo 2, obviously this needs to be a different CMS game of a certain kind. And for me personally, it's getting harder and harder to think of anything else because of the situation of Frontier, as they were bringing out 3 games and maybe 3 successful games. If they go exactly this route of successors, they would have a strong roster, and this is potentially the strongest point why I am so confident that we are going to look at a Planet Zoo 2. Imagine they do this, then we would have at the end of 2026, which is only in 2 years' time, we would have 3 relatively new games that Frontier is at a core an expert of, meaning they could have a whole bunch of synergy effects between these 3 games, because they would benefit from the same artists, they would benefit from the same systems, they would benefit from the same audio design team. So if you want to continue making a lot of money while not having to employ that many more people, this would be the way to go. If you would expand into, let's say, a city simulation game or a live sim or whatever, either you have a lot of, whoops, that was hitting my microphone, either you have a lot of, competition right now, or you would go into completely unknown waters, which could completely fail, and then 1/3 of your investment is at risk, which at this point Frontier cannot do. And the way they have it so closely together makes me believe it can only be a successor-focused approach this time around. But this is where I'll leave you alone with. Hopefully this video was interesting for you, and I could enlighten you a bit more why it is going to be more realistic now to have a second Planet Zoo game, which I would love. But let me know in the comments what you think about all these thoughts, all these points. Have you maybe more developments in the industry that I should look into? What could be beneficial for a game like that? Or is there any evidence I have not seen yet and you have maybe discovered? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's start a discussion. I'm here. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Let's do this. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!